Hey everybody, welcome to the FUNDication Show. Today we have Alvin Scioneaux, and he is a current real estate investor, but previously he worked for 8 years in aerospace engineering. And then in a past life of his, if you don't recognize him, he was actually NFL linebacker for the Chargers. And he's now got a unique multi-million dollar real estate business that we'll talk about. Can't wait to find out a little bit more. So, Alvin, thanks for being on with us, giving us your time, and can't wait to see what type of similarities we have.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure already. So looking forward to diving in.
Perfect. Tell us just a little bit about how you went from football to engineering to real estate. That's a good combination.
Yes, very much so diverse track and path I've had over the years, all unrelated. There's no overlap. Initially on the football side, I really, went from playing high school, growing up in Louisiana, to being a college student athlete out in South Carolina at Wofford College. Had a lot of success just on the football field, but it didn't start off that way. Even from high school, didn't didn't make varsity the first 2 years, right? And then in college, and then in college, I started off red shirt my first year. So it was some trials and tribulations, but eventually got the hang of things. Didn't cut any corners. Kind of just stuck to the plan, right? And became an All-American. Ended up later being inducted to my Collegiate Hall of Fame, and eventually, during draft night in 2014, got that call from the Chargers, and it was something that was in consideration. I was wondering, like, I might have a after my All-American year in college, I figured like I might have a chance at this NFL thing, right? Kids talk about it, but you never really, make it surreal moment until it actually happens. So
I
once I
can't
got
even imagine. So cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it was a great phone call when I seen it coming in. So that's kind of how what led me to the football route, just having success of being a football player. And then playing for the Chargers for a couple of years until my I tore my ACL meniscus, which that kind of football thing, injuries happen, right? It's just a matter of hoping it's not something drastic. And then that really what led me to go into engineering, aerospace engineering for 8 years until I built up my real estate portfolio and now full time in real estate.
Nice. How long were you doing real estate while you were an engineer where you went, wait a minute, the money's in real estate? How long did that take?
Yes, that so let's see, that took 3 years, three years of because I was doing engineering beforehand, even like in college, working, internships and things of that sort. And eventually, after football, I got my master's in mechanical engineering from San Diego State. So I was always just looking at different real estate options while I was working and in school as an engineer. And then once I started my full-time engineering W-2 job, that's when I got my first property out in LA and started renting out the rooms. And then it kind of just snowball effect. Got the next one doing the same thing, co-living, and started getting the syndications. And there's a lot real quick.
Nice. So you work, is it true? I read this about you that you work with some athletes in terms of here's how to get involved in real estate. Don't blow your money, build wealth.
Yes. So I'm currently the vice president for the NFLPA, the LA chapter. And NFLPA is the Players Association. So I'm always working with athletes, talking with athletes about different opportunities, different things to keep in mind. A lot of guys, when they come into the NFL, they're 22, 23, 24 years old, and all of a sudden, seven, eight, possibly even nine-figure type of figures and income is they're seeing, and it's a lot of money, a lot of real quick. So being able to properly understand, the financial literacy aspect, foundationally understand how to allocate your money, what you need to do. It's real easy to fall into the rabbit hole of just wanting to splurge, and make it rain. But it's okay to make it rain once, but don't do it twice. So,
Not everything.
being able to balance those type of aspects is what I talk to a lot of athletes about.
I'm curious, Alvin, what was the culture shift when you went from being growing up down south and playing college, and then going out to California? To talk to us a little bit about that difference in culture and how you adapted.
Yeah, so the West Coast is very much so different from the South. If you've been to both places, you would know. The South country living, the Southern hospitality, everything is a lot slower. There's typically a lot more trees, and especially being from Louisiana, the food is huge. Jazz culture as well. So from going from that to when I first came out to California, uh, the first thing really is the it's 75 degrees all year, sunny all the time. The beach is right there, 30 minutes away. Mountains, you can go snowing an hour away. So I was in, San Diego at the time. So, that right there was a big difference. I would say a lot of people on the West Coast is a beach city, right? So, everybody typically half the year, they have their clothes on, right? Beach city, living out, working out is very much normal. Vegan and very nutrition conscious is very much normal. In the South, you're like, just eat, man. Stop worrying about if it's non-GMO and everything.
Well, and if
So,
it's not fried, it's not food, like,
if it's not fried, it's not food in the
yeah.
South, right? So, there's a big difference. That was a culture shock. Even when I was working as an engineer, some of my coworkers, they would go play street hockey during lunch break, and my mind was boggling. I'm like, what you mean you're not going to eat? It's the only time you get to eat. So yeah, it was a very unique and interesting switch.
You said you're a part of the Players Association. Was there somebody that guided you in the beginning and told you to start buying real estate? I mean, where did you have that insight? Where did it come from?
That's a great question. So there was no real, I mean, in the NFL, we have our like rookie symposium type of deal where they talk about different how to handle your money, right? Financial literacy. They have some speakers come in, how to be a professional athlete and celebrity and things of that sort, how to carry yourself. So we kind of touch on that, your rookie year, but then after that, it's not really brought up again. But for me specifically, it really came from my parents. That's where my first introduction to real estate and investing came. Um, you know, Me, when I was born, I'm the third of 8 kids. So, we got a basketball team plus reserves. And, growing up, when I first was born, my parents, they were initially staying with my grandparents, and then they got their first property when I was born. And then, from there, growing up, I pretty much watched them grow from zero, no real estate owned at all, to, now 25 plus properties. And, they did it the slow and consistent way, every 3 to 5 years, right? We buy a property. As more kids come, we need a bigger house. So, they bought a new property and then rented out the last one. And then, every 2 to 5 years, just doing that repeatedly. And once I got to high school, double digits in 10 to 15 plus properties they had. And I'm watching people come by and dropping off cash and dropping off checks. I'm like, oh, I like this life. I could get used to this. So that was really my first introduction to real estate investing. And, since then I always had real estate on my mind. I would eventually get into it.
Well, and I know that I have some friends that have played pro, and then I've also watched a lot of interviews. And how do you reach those guys when there's so much pressure for them to essentially show this newfound wealth, and many of them aren't making the millions right out of the gate, right? And so
Right.
there's a lot of pressure there to not use that money wisely. How do you reach them and help them understand the importance of building that wealth through real estate?
Yes, it's it really comes down to you know that in celebrities or athletes and things of that. So everybody is speaking, trying to here's this opportunity, here's you can do this, you can do that. So that they're hearing 1,000 different voices. For me, it really stems from hey, I've been there, done that. I was once a professional athlete. This is how I was able to um, create passive income that eventually matched my professional playing career income, right? So now I'm taking, you can get paid, even engineering the same way, these are all highly paid, active forms of income. So, how can we invest that wisely so that now we can make that same income in our sleep? And just telling my story, how I built my portfolio, and just presenting the opportunity, because at the end of the day, right, they have to make that choice. But I would say definitely, being someone that been down that same path and had to figure things out, and then showing the way to those that came after me, helps a lot.
I think there's an interesting paradigm because, you talk about somebody who all of a sudden has a windfall of money, 8-figure, 9-figure contract, which I'm never going to see in my life. And then you take it to the regular Joe, the regular Julie, where it's like, it's even more important for us to invest and have that growing return, because I'm not going to have those type of contracts. And so I know you work with athletes, I know you work with regular old people like us. How long have you been in syndication now?
So in syndication, let me see, it was about 2 years now. I've been
Okay.
doing a year and a half or so doing syndications, joined a mastermind group. So I was just doing residential 1 to 4 unit co-living stuff, and joined the mastermind group centered around capital raising, and met a lot of high level players in there, mostly multifamily or portfolio um, investors, and pretty much got connected with them, raising money, asset management, and here we are, on going on my third syndication deal so far. So it's been great. It opens your eyes and your mind to the possibilities, right? A lot of people just think I can get this residential property here, or get this single family here, and you can go buy 1, 2, 300 units, as well. It's gonna take the same amount of work. A lot of the numbers are similar to a degree. Like you still need a lender, right? You still need somebody to appraise the property. Like the escrow process is very much similar. So from it was a benefit for me, just open my mind to what could be, and that's very much appreciated.
Same game, bigger numbers.
Same game, just add a couple zeros.
Yep. Yep.
Did you do any passive investing, Alvin, before stepping in and being the GP yourself?
So my first, all of them, I was GP. I was a GP in it. I didn't do any LP investing out of the gate, because I mean, for me, it was really a matter of how do I get involved as much as possible. I'm one to not. I don't mind getting my hands dirty. My dad's an electrical engineer by trade, and I'm an engineer myself too. So at growing up, I would ride with him to go fix the AC unit, right? We working on the properties, doing the painting and everything. So he was a very hands-on property manager, which for me, it two things. For one, hard work, right? Just diving all the way in, and for two, the knowledge of how things should be structured, the process, right? Something that doesn't look right. Like, yeah, you charging me way too much for that. It helps when you're looking at contractors and bids and things of that sort as well. So yeah, I just dove right into the GP side, of course, bringing funding to the deal, as well as operating and actively involved in the deal as well.
Got it. And were some of those in the beginning? I mean, it sounds like what you're alluding to is you already had connections to people with money, and so you connected with those that had deals and then was able to partner up with them. Is that kind of what I'm hearing from you?
Yes, yes. Raising money from just my network, and then pitching in on the asset management side as well.
Yeah, that's great. And so has that been all of your deals, or have you also now found your own and started to launch your own syndications?
Yeah, so that's been all of them. All of them have been through partnering with other syndicators and operators. The latest one actually is a 18 unit short-term rental portfolio out in St. Louis. A handful of partners on that. Seller finance as well. Um, so great terms on the debt side, and actually working with and financial advisor or financial planner that will help investors use their tax funds for their investment. So you don't have to come up with $50,000 or $100,000 from out of your pocket. You can use the money that would have went to Uncle Sam and just invest that into a deal as well. So that's another unique opportunity that will be coming live here soon.
Yeah, very cool. So as you've been the one that's out there and you're dealing with the investor relations, you're making those connections. Have you ever dealt with somebody that gets into a deal and then realizes that they really need that capital somewhere else and put that pressure on you to get them out?
Yeah, me myself. Well,
Yep.
I am that person. Now, I would say there's always, that's like one of the cons of syndications, right? Or real estate investing in general. It's illiquid. Once your funds are invested in the property, it's not easily converted back into liquidity. So that's something that I always make sure I harp on and make sure any investor is well, they definitely understand that aspect, that this is an illiquid investment. It's not like the stock market and you can just have your money back tomorrow. You definitely need to, in the long haul, 5 years, possibly even 10 years, depending on how long the hold is, be able to not have that money come back to you.
Which is so important for every sponsor to really preface and say, this is investment, you've got to be in. But I have to say that might have been a little bit of a trick question from Christian because that's PREIshare's game. We literally have the first format, the first classifieds format for people to buy and sell those secondary passive investments, which is kind of cool. So down the road, if you get somebody that says, hey, Alvin, I need my money back, I have an
Yeah,
emergency, or I want to do something else, you can just push them our way. So
right.
yeah, Christian, you want to tell them a little bit about what we do on that end?
Yeah, it was definitely a leading question, no doubt about it. Um, I
Gotcha.
love that you've dealt with it personally, right? Because, many syndicators, especially if they've always been a GP, it doesn't quite hit that same, home base with them. But our founder, Michael Anderson, when he built his organization, they did over $7.5 billion worth of real estate, and he was regularly holding over $1 billion in assets under management. He had people coming to him often with situations that he just couldn't say no to. And whether that was, his track buddies, because he was a big, race guy, that were on the list for the new Ferrari, or it was, somebody that came to him originally investing because they wanted to put their kids through college, and now their kids got into an Ivy League, university earlier than as expected, and these people needed their money out, or worst case, it's a medical situation, wife has cancer or something of that nature. He can't say no to those, but as you can't really pull capital out of a transaction to give people their money back. And so usually that meant Mike was tapping into his own wealth and his own funds some way or another to try to make good with these folks. And when he retired and he sold his company to his partner, he really started thinking about all the things that he wished were different about the industry. And that was the biggest factor was that lack of liquidity that you talked about. He wanted to find a way to solve that. And he went and searched for if there was already solutions out there. And of course, he didn't find any that had really been created. And so that's when he assembled us as a team to create that secondary listing hub where people can list their LP shares and have them bought out by other investors. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of advantages of buying in late stage into a transaction.
For sure. For sure. No, that's
It's so
awesome.
funny. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's awesome.
I was just going to say, it's so funny that while Christian's explaining that, I'm looking at his background going, look, it's right there. Which side is it on? This side? Does it say the
The
listing
listing hub.
hub? Yeah, so these little classified listings that you see on our background is literally snapshots of those secondary passive syndicated shares where people are saying, gosh, have multifamily, have storage, have industrial, have held it for a couple of years, need liquidity. There's just so much meat left on the bone, but definitely we'll talk to you about that when we're offline, because we work with a lot of sponsors that we basically call kind of our stable of PREIshare approved sponsors, and have services literally just to help you. So Mike Anderson, like Christian said, was in the sponsor. He was one of the good old boys that was a sponsor before sponsorship was a thing, right? Like he kind of helped build that whole world, and he retired and then said, oh, nope, we got to fix some problems. And so literally we have some cool stuff that I'll share with you offline, but keep that in
Nice.
mind for your investors and any other LPs out there listening. It's like, it is possible, it is legal. In fact, we'll actually work with your sponsor to help them replace language in their PPMs, SEC attorney approved, to say this is not real estate. This is actually a security. You should have liquidity on it. And I say this all the time. I'm going to say it one more time. I just can't imagine if I had to sell my crypto and there was no Coinbase or no Robinhood or no, so it's like for the first time we actually have the listing hub, which is thanks for letting us
Yeah.
bomb
And
it on
now,
you.
while we
Educate.
have it fresh on your mind, because oftentimes, we don't get to talk to people in the very beginning. They find us online or somebody refers them over to us. What do you think that would do for your offerings and your capital raising if you could mention that it's no longer completely liquid?
Yeah, I mean that's huge. That's huge. I mean, because I would say a lot of people, especially if they're on that cusp, right, of not having a bunch of this disposable income, they may be a little bit hesitant because I may need this in 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. Something may come up. It may be tapping into their emergency fund or something like that. So they may hold off. But having a platform to where even if you do need liquidity, someone can just buy it from you. I would say that's a huge hurdle that pretty much is eliminated.
Absolutely. And so, that's one thing that we're doing for the marketplace as a whole. We also do have a fund that will create some of that instant liquidity. So if you ever run into that, we just want to put it in your ear. We are creating that liquidity within the game of real estate syndication.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
So what are the big plans for the next 5 years for Alvin and Financial Athlete Capital?
Next 5 years, we have a lot planned. So I am actually have my first little one on the way. So I
Congratulations.
appreciate, and I imagine in 5 years we'll probably have a couple more. And then just being first time dad, husband, all that good stuff, that is huge, especially for someone that coming from 8 kids, a big family. Family is definitely foundational, huge for me. And then for Financial Athlete Capital, really looking to just 10x everything, raised a $1 million. So looking in the next year or the next few years, raise 10 million, and then scale that again. Um, acquiring this portfolio deal in 18 short-term rentals in St. Louis, and looking to scale that. Eventually get to a point to where I can have my 100 units from a partnership standpoint, and then maybe 20 to 50 or so on my own as well. So at this point in the game, for me, the next 5 years is really just a matter of scaling. I have my brokerage license, my real estate license as well. So doing a lot of commercial real estate here in SoCal. So, brokering out deals and acquiring some of them at the same time as a principal.
How
Yeah.
much of getting your license made you realize, oh, this is doable? Like I'm I'm helping other people get into real estate. Why can't I think that helps a lot of syndicators to realize the legality behind things and there's a process, and then like we said, just doing it on a bigger scale. Um, did you get into real estate investment first, or did you become a realtor first?
So I was
Maybe.
definitely an investor first,
Okay.
and the only thing that even made me get my real estate license because I'm I'm a lifelong learner. I love just taking the information, learning what to do, what not to do, what this person did that I maybe shouldn't do, what this person did that I should follow. So even so, a quick story. When I was getting my master's in engineering, the first every semester, the first 2 to 3 weeks, I would just sit in on like 20 classes. So I'm going to like personal finance class, entrepreneurship classes, everything that has nothing to do with engineering. And then once things start to really progress, I'm like, okay, I can't go to these anymore. I got actual exams I need to study for. But for the first couple of weeks, I'm just going in just to see what's going on, and that's always really been my my mantra. The way that I like to go about life is the more I always say the know better, do better, be better, and it all starts with having that mindset up here to really take that first step. So the going back to the real estate license, I wanted to just know everything that real estate agents know. My first properties, I use an agent for, and in my head, I'm like, I mean, I don't know if it's that hard, really. But once once I had my license, going through the process, uh, it opened my eyes to a lot of different things about the legality, like you mentioned, the escrow process, so on and so forth. Things that maybe from an investor you kind of maybe overlooked or don't really pay too much attention to. As an agent, now with a license, you have something to lose. You can't just be out here doing whatever, right? So, that security aspect, definitely. I'm looking to get my CCIM as well on the commercial side. So, another type of value add certification, right? That people can see and okay, this guy is legit.
Yeah, that CCIM is the doctorate of real estate. And I've heard stories. It's like, 90% failure. You're in class for a week. It's
Yeah.
I can see your child now probably going to come into this world with a briefcase, a pencil sharpener, and like a football. I just you're such a go-getter, and I'm sure that your little family's going to end up being the same way. But definitely
Oh
good
yeah.
for that CCIM. I can't wait to see engineer, NFL, real estate syndicator, CCIM. That'll round out things so well for you.
Oh, oh yes. My wife is an attorney as well. So she knows I'm always if it's if you have to do something or if there's something that you're looking to achieve, then just go do it. I make it seem simple, uh, because in reality, the biggest limitation in anything, no matter what we're striving for or trying to do in life, is really 90% us, right? The self-doubt, the hurdles, the imposter syndrome, and all these different things. If we can get over all of that, it'll be 10 times easier, and you're that much more likely to accomplish whatever it is you're looking to accomplish. Like I never thought I would be an NFL player, like in reality, right? Or aerospace engineer working on NASA projects, going into outer space in reality, right? But I've done that, so there's no limitation outside of self.
Yeah, I love that message. And oftentimes we overlook, certain aspects of the business. I also got into real estate strictly as an investor, and I was an investor for 17 years, and I paid hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to other agents, either directly or through the referrals that I sent their way. And it wasn't until just a few years ago that I thought to myself, why don't I have my real estate license? I bring such a unique aspect to the business, being that I've been in their shoes, both as the buyer and the seller, so many times. And so I love that you're adding that arrow to your quiver, so to speak. And I think it's going to add additional income that you probably didn't expect, because that's the nice part about having your license, is it gives you the opportunity to step in and bring perspective to a deal and some negotiation, but also get paid pretty well along the way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, even if you buy one property, that's 10 to 20, $30,000, depending on where you live. That is right back in your pocket, right? It kind of pays for itself.
Yeah. And I did hear you, as you were talking about scaling, you talked about the amount of capital that you want to raise. So another, shameless plug for PREIshare. One thing that we've gotten into recently is launching campaigns on behalf of other syndicators. So if you ever want to get featured for a new raise on our platform, and have us feature you on all the different external platforms as well, to start connecting with passive accredited investors. That's one thing that we've mastered, is how to find those people online and put the information in front of them so they're answering an ad specific to your project. Names are kind of useless, but relationships are priceless.
Yes, yes. Real estate is a relationship game. Best believe.
Sure. Yep.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely gonna have to check out the that's a great added benefit for the listing hub, being able to sell your shares, being able to highlight different raises. Um,
Our
I'm looking at
goal
it.
is to just make
I'm
your
going through it
raise.
right now during the podcast.
Our goal is to just make your raise so much easier. Like we talked about earlier, we find that 70% of people that would invest in real estate stay back or are hesitant because of the illiquidity. And then just our relationship with so many LPs out there, we're able to kind of funnel those over to you and attract more. And that really has been our superpower. Our fund was oversubscribed for a good while. So we thought, well, it's another way to give back to the sponsor, to the syndicating world, in terms of just finding investors, especially in this unique time frame. Have you done any recent raises in this unique, financial situation? And how much more difficult is it?
Yeah. So we have one that's coming up here in the next couple weeks. Um, it's definitely a lot more difficult, especially when even I always say in real estate during an election year, there's going to be some turbulence. Of course, we know the market cycle, every 7 to 10 years it fluctuates. So um, we have that instability in the market and an election year this year, and I imagine next year is when the real correction will happen. So it makes things a lot more difficult. People are just, it's the unknown, right? They don't know where the market is going to go, and that unknown makes a lot of people just kind of hold on and wait and see type of deal. Um, but in reality, that's when you need to make the most moves, because that's when that's when the best opportunities show up. So being able to talk through that as well. It's a more difficult conversation, but for those that actually get it and understand it, it'll be that much better.
I think you're right when you say more difficult conversation. I spoke with a syndicator very recently who said, historically I could just call certain people and they would say, "What's the deal and how much do you need?" And now those same people are going, "What's the deal?" And then 1,000 questions,
Yeah,
and maybe how much do you need? So people are definitely, it's time to expand our pool of LP investors for the future for sure.
absolutely, absolutely. The more people that you can help out, the better anyway. So
Yep. Yep. And so many people are learning about syndication, as we've talked about, even secondaries, and the fact that you can invest passively. How many people have we come across, Christian, that are, doctor, dentist, attorney, or something, and they go, "What? I can invest passively? How come nobody ever told me this?" And they're actually kind of upset that they've missed out on something, or that they haven't invested in real estate because they didn't want to be done with their career and then make sure the plumber came or find a new tenant and so forth. And so, yeah, it really is doing a service to help people understand the beauty of passive investing. And I'm sure you have a lot of fun explaining that as well, where it's like you can be knee deep or you can just let us handle it.
Handle the work. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, they don't want to deal with the tenants and the toilets and the termites and the trash and everything else that's going on with the real estate investment. So, to be able to just put your money to work and still see those great returns without doing anything, I would say that that is a great value add. So, I encourage all of the syndicators out there to keep doing your work.
Yeah, we need good syndicators out there to provide those passive opportunities. And yeah, we really I think we have an affection for the syndicators, because oftentimes these guys, you guys, are giving up 70-80% of the deal to these passive investors, and you're out there doing the hard work and having the hard conversations and moving things along. So kudos to you for, for building out, great opportunities. And I'd love, before we end this podcast, because we are coming up on time, I'd love to just shoot some quick questions at you, to bring some value to our audience. The first one is there one book that you would recommend to somebody that's looking to get their start in real estate?
Great question. I actually have. So this year I read. I challenged myself. Normally I read like one book a month. This year I'm on book number 29
Nice.
so
I'm like
far.
one a week.
Yeah, almost one a week. They say, right, the average millionaire read 52 books a year, I guess, for once a week on average. Um, so that's the standard I'm holding myself to. Um, but recently, the most recent book that I read is Story Brand by let me see, Story Brand. What's Donald Miller is the author.
Okay.
I would say that's really great from a marketing standpoint. Uh, any entrepreneur, any business, right? I would say the marketing, the sales, like those. A lot of people overlook those, but that's really 80% of your business, right? The product is the least bit of the value add. So I would say really keen in on that marketing and sales aspect. On the real estate side specifically, um, the Kiyosaki book, or Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's one of my early reads. Gary Keller, the $1 Million Real Estate Investor. So one of my early reads as well. All great books that help you understand the overall process of real estate and funding allocation. Um, so I have to say, I have to name two, because the sales and marketing is such a big part of being a business and entrepreneur in general. So those, you can choose between those three.
I love it.
I haven't read that or the Gary Keller one, so thank you.
Yes, for sure.
And as far as advice for somebody who is a high dollar earner, who wants to be invested in real estate but doesn't want to essentially buy another job, what kind of advice can you give to somebody like that?
Yeah, so if you're a high income earner and do not want to buy another job, then that's exactly why passive income and syndications exist. So, from there is really just analyzing which syndication deal is good for you. For me personally, I always start with the operator. The market is good. The deal itself is good, but if we don't have a great operator, ethical operator at the helm of things, then everything else is kind of irrelevant. So I always start with the GP team, and then kind of work my way down from there. So then get into the market logistics and the population, job group, all that good stuff, and then the actual deal itself, to see if it's appreciation deal, cash flow deal, what's the business plan at hand, and how can it apply to that specific property at hand. And I actually have a book that goes through all the different due diligence questions that you can ask. It's on financialathletecapital.com, and it will tell you it's like close to 50 questions, due diligence questions that you can ask any syndicator or operator that you're partnering with on an investment to make sure you put your best foot forward.
Oh, I love that. And it follows right in line with what we do as well. We start with the sponsor approval process. We want to know we're dealing with good players. At that point, we can talk about the deals. So I'm going to put Julie on the spot on the last one. The last question is up to you, Julie. Give him one more to bring some value.
Oh, man. One thing we're talking about, I want to know, this is something I should have asked at the very beginning. What is your team like? Are you the man doing all the work behind the syndication, or do you have team players, that help you with legal and accounting and
Absolutely. Team players, it's like I said before, real estate is a people business. So, you trying to do everything on yourself, trying to do everything by yourself. You may be able to manage it here or there. And actually in the Story Brand book, it talks about this as well. Eventually things going to unravel, right? You can wear 10 hats, but you only have one head. So you need to make sure you have a dream team around you, legal side, on the financial side, on the asset management acquisition side, property, everything on every side to put your best foot forward. And every deal that I've been a part of, the success has come from the summation of the parts, right? It's like it's so clear to me because even on my first deal in Nebraska, we were already hitting our year 4 rent projections in year 1,
oh wow.
just because we had great property management, boots on the ground. They run a clean ship, and it also allows everyone else to focus on their responsibilities, right? Because they're so great at that. And I always compare it to me. I have my strengths. I would not go to a concert and try to sing Adele like Adele. I'm saying? Let Adele be Adele, let a Beyonce be Beyonce, whatever artist, because that's their strong suit, right? And I don't want to work twice as hard, 3 times as hard to get half the production that someone else can do. Like they know it like the back of their hand. It's easy
Yep.
for them.
Their
So
expertise. So
their
Financial Athlete
expertise.
Capital has the quarterback, the linebacker, all the different departments to make things flow. So it'll be fun to watch you grow. How many doors do you guys have right now?
So right now, let's see, 150.
Pretty good for just a few years.
Yeah.
Keep on going. Very cool. And last thing, now that we've talked to you, I see the football field behind you and I see the real estate behind you. Really cool.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Got to
Alvin,
maximize both, the combination of both.
Yeah.
by the way, Alvin, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they want to seek you out, what's the best ways for them to do it?
Yeah, so I'm on all social media, A1 Scioneaux, my last name. So that's the letter A, number 1, Scioneaux, SCIONEAUX. Or you can also go to financialathletecapital.com and connect with me there.
Thank you so much for joining us. And for everybody else out there, thanks for joining us for another edition of the FUNDication Show.
Thanks, everybody.